Melkor, otherwise known as Morgoth, was the first Dark Lord. The god, Eru Ilúvatar, created Melkor in the timeless halls, the heavens in which Eru dwells. Melkor was born with the greatest power and vastest knowledge of all the Ainur. From the beginning of his life, Melkor wished only to create, much like his father. He spent much time alone, searching for the flame imperishable, though the flame lived within his father. Thus, Melkor spent a great deal of time with only his thoughts which began to slip further away from those of his siblings. When the Ainur sang the great music, and began to shape life, the thoughts of Melkor slipped into the songs, changing them, and causing discord among the melodies. Eru reprimanded his son, which brought great shame to Melkor. When the world was first formed, Melkor entered it with his siblings. He claimed the first field of Arda for himself, believing he could create just as well as his father before him. The other Ainur continued to weave life around them, with Melkor corrupting it with every given moment. After some time, the mighty Valar Tolkos descended into Arda, forcing Melkor to flee. The Valar continued to bring life into the world. First they created the great lamps and brought light into it. During this time, Melkor returned with a great host of Maiar, rending the fortress of Atunmo into the very earth. Melkor then left the fortress in full force, starting a war with the Valar, and ultimately destroying the great lamps. The Valar fled the land, leaving Melkor to his own devices. Melkor set about to continue his corruption. He filled the land with terrible creatures and infected it with his decay. He created a second fortress, Angband, and gave his minion Sauron command over it. During this time the fair elves were born, though Melkor found them before any other, and twisted their forms into something unrecognizable, the Orcs. The Valar found out about this, and they waged a great war, the War of Powers. Melkor was defeated, and ultimately entombed in the halls of Mandos. After several ages, Melkor was freed by his brother Manwë, who couldn't fathom the depths of depravity that his brother had fallen into. Melkor then met with the Noldor, slowly corrupted them with thoughts of tyranny. Prince Fëanor of the Noldor had been swayed by Melkor's words, believing them to be true. Fëanor was brought to Valinor, to the meeting place of the Valar, to explain himself. Fëanor revealed the lies of Melkor, prompting Tolkos to take his leave and search for him. The Dark Lord had been moving southward, finding himself a tentative ally in the creature Ungoliant. The two returned to Valinor, where they found the two trees which gave light to the world, and set about destroying them. Melkor plunged his spear into the trees, allowing Ungoliant to drink the light from them, plunging the world into a terrible lasting darkness. In the confusion of what had happened, Melkor killed Finwë, father of Fëanor, and stole from him the Silmarils, the 3 gems crafted from the essence of the trees. He fled with Ungoliant, back to Middle-earth. On their journey together, Ungoliant hungered for their prize, for which Melkor refused. This started a great battle between them, with Ungoliant besting Melkor. As he cried out in pain, his mighty Balrogs rose from his fortress, defending their master, and driving Ungoliant away. Melkor continued building his forces, creating a vast army of orcs and other beasts. Fëanor and his Noldor brethren launched an attack on the Dark Lord, hoping to retrieve their stolen treasures. At first, the elves had done well, but in their hubris, they delved too far into Melkor's territory. A group of Balrogs slew the elves, with the chief Balrog among them, Gothmog, wounding Fëanor, wounds which released the elf from his mortal coil. Melkor believed he could destroy the last of the elves. Before his plan was enacted, the Valar created the sun and the moon, which confounded the Dark Lord and his minions. In response, Melkor sent large, thick clouds of smoke to darken the skies. For over 200 years, Melkor battled the elves with his army of orcs. Each time he was swiftly defeated, so Melkor began fashioning even greater beasts, eventually creating Glaurung, the first of the dragons. 200 years again passed, with Melkor now poised to attack. He sent rivers of fire and poisonous fumes from his great volcanoes. Melkor's armies of orcs, Balrogs, and a mighty dragon decimated the elves. Fingolfin, the younger brother of Fëanor, rode out to Melkor's fortress alone, challenging the Dark Lord to single combat. For some time, Fingolfin proved a worthy opponent, but his stamina had waned, and Melkor brought the Elf King to his knees with mighty blows from his hammer Grond. As Fingolfin's body was lifted by Melkor, ready to be fed to his wolves, Thorondor, the king of the eagles, flew down, injuring Melkor and claiming Fingolfin's body. Though Melkor had won, the wounds from his battle had scarred him, causing an eternal limp and ceaseless pain. The elves slowly began accruing wins against Melkor. As the Dark Lord continued losing battles, he became desperate and tried to recruit the Edain, a great host of men. This failed, and so he sent the Easterlings to harass them. During this time, Melkor continued his war, almost winning, but was driven back at the last moment by Círdan, the wisest of the elves. After some time, Melkor continued his assault on the elven kingdoms, eventually assaulting Gondolin, quickly sacking the city. The great half-elf Erendil then asked the Valar for assistance, an act which Melkor had expected to fall upon deaf ears. The Valar, though, showed great compassion, and brought forth their armies to confront their lost brother. The war was fierce, and raged across the entire land. Before long, the forces of Melkor were defeated, his orcs cast down, and his mighty Balrogs mostly dead, save a few who ran and hid in the deep places of the earth. Melkor knew his defeat was near, and so he released his final assault. A great wave of dragons poured from the pits of Angband, driving back the host of Valinor. Erendil then returned, bringing with him his own host of winged allies, the great eagles. They fought bravely, defeating the dragons. Erendil himself slew the mightiest of them all, and Calagon the Black. Melkor, now defeated, was cast into the Door of Night, and imprisoned within the Timeless Void. Now all that remains of Melkor is his corruption. It still lingers within Middle-earth, causing discord wherever it may. Some say in the last days, the Dagor Dagorath will occur, the Battle of Battles, where Melkor will return to the world to wage his last war.